Today we will look at the other commonalities between all four Gospels which could be argued to have come from tradition, although since we know that the synoptics copied each other, there is a chance the writers of John may have also copied these few events from the other Gospels. Anyway, this is how we eliminate these events in the search for logically derived historical truth. If you haven't watched it already, this video goes before my video titled The Proof for Jesus that scholars often miss. Hello. Welcome to Faith in Logic. We explore historical topics from a purely logical analysis. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for new content. Now, there are a number of events reported by all four Gospels. These include 1. The ministry of John the Baptist and the baptism of Jesus by him. Jesus is baptized in the Jordan River by John the Baptist. In John 1 though, this implied rather than directly narrated in John. 2. The feeding of the 5,000. This is one of the few miracles recorded in all four Gospels. 3. The triumphal entry into Jerusalem. Jesus enters Jerusalem riding on a donkey, fulfilling prophecy. Matthew 21, Mark 11, Luke 19, John 12. 4. The Last Supper. Jesus shares a final meal with his disciples. Matthew 26, Mark 14, Luke 22, John 13. Though John focuses more on the washing of the feet than the institution of the Eucharist. 5. The betrayal by Judas. Judas Iscariot betrays Jesus. All four Gospels record this event. 6. Jesus' trial before Pilate. Jesus is brought before the Roman governor Pontius Pilate. Matthew 27, Mark 15, Luke 23, John 18-19. 7. The crucifixion of Jesus. This is central to the Christian faith. All four Gospels record it. Matthew 27, Mark 15, Luke 23, John 19. 8. The burial of Jesus. Jesus is buried in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, found in all four Gospels. 9. The resurrection of Jesus. The women going to tomb and resurrection are found in all four narratives. Matthew 28, Mark 16, Luke 24, John 20. So, how do we sift through these? The first criterion we will use is to look for any event that is clearly a religious narrative with that motive. This will cover a lot as the Bible is, no surprise, a religious book. So, we will have to eliminate the feeding of the 5,000. That's a miracle, and not something we can admit as historical. The triumphal entry. This is to portray Jesus as a king after David. The Last Supper. This is to show a replacing of the Jewish Passover meal by this new Passover meal, which will be later linked to Christ's sacrifice. Next, we eliminate events linked to socio-political benefit. John the Baptist was a big figure, so much so that he is mentioned in Josephus's works. To have Jesus baptized by him would be good endorsement for Jesus. So, John the Baptist's ministry is out. Next, events that their plot in the story is too predictable and rather illogical. We take out Judas Iscariot. It is a common and predictable theme to have one of the group betray the master, and Judas needed to kiss Jesus, a supposedly very public figure. To identify him? Sounds too contrived. Now, all four Gospels report that he died by being executed, and we can accept that as true. So if he were to die on earth, they would have no option but to have him die at a particular time in history and under the Romans, the power at the time, and it had to have been by crucifixion. The Roman governor of Judea at the time, Pilate, would naturally fall in. This is an event necessary for verisimilitude, so we eliminate it. However, we now come to particular events around his death. All four Gospels report his burial in a tomb belonging to Joseph of Arimathea. We eliminate this also on grounds of religious narrative, because this was potentially written to fulfill the Isaiah 53 text where it says, "And they made his grave with the wicked and with a rich man in his death." This leaves us with the other aspect of his death, which is that after he died, women went to the tomb and found it empty, and also saw the risen Christ. This event is the only one that the writers had no reason to include in the narrative. In fact, by the criterion of embarrassment, as women were not reliable witnesses, they had more reason to not include this than to do so. So, it has the trait of an event that was not only true, but also was not simply copied between the Gospel writers. It would have been a tradition that they all inherited, and each reported it slightly differently. So, this is how we come to this proof that a character on which the Jesus story was based did exist. As always, this is Faith in Logic. Thanks for watching.